The Wavelengths present a conversation with everyday people doing extraordinary things, making the world a better place. Meet Sara Drake, a spiritual and life coach and an educator. One of the 3 founding members of the Wavelengths, Sara is an intuitive and a channel of toning and light language. Holographically sees mental, emotional, and physical energy patterns. A creative educator devising easy-to-understand workshops and classes. Combines the mystical and the scientific in a way that makes sense. A full mesa carrier in the Peruvian cross-cultural shamanic path. Trained in many energy techniques, including breathwork. Hope you enjoy our conversation with Sara.
Hi, I'm Sara.
Hi, I'm Jante.
And hello, I'm Sandy. And together we are the Wavelengths. And today we are going to be talking to Sara Drake, who is one of our founding members. And she is going to tell us and share part of her journey about what she does and her story. So, Sara, can you tell us what it is that you do?
Sure, Sandy. Thank you. Well, I label myself as a life coach and educator, and that's because a lot of what I do is educate people on information, kind of merging the intellectual and scientific information and how we talk about it in more spiritual terms, because there's the terms are different, but the energies are the same, if that makes sense. I also, especially on the website, educate people about how our brains develop, how our perceptions work, how that all fits together to create belief systems, and how those belief systems impact how we relate to the world, which impacts how we experience our life, right? So if we have a negative unconscious belief system, then we experience that by having those things happen in our world. And so that leads to the life coach part, is I help people separate those pieces, separate those aspects into pieces so that they can change the belief systems that no longer serve them. And part of what I do, because I see energetic lines of energy holographically, and that's something I've done since I'm a very young child. And in looking at that, it shows, I can see how the different energies are entangled, which thoughts are involved, which ancestral aspects are involved, which life experiences are involved to create this tangled energy that needs to be untangled. So that's kind of a short version of what I do.
Well, that is very fascinating, and we look forward to more details. So what led you to doing this work? What would you like to share some parts of your?
Absolutely. Well, there's no short version. I'm 65 years old, so it's taken me a while to get here. But it kind of started, I believe, from my perspective of my life right now. I had 2 near-death experiences by the time I was 6 years old. And so I grew up with a different perspective of how life worked. Religion, while I saw the value in religion and being part of a religious group, although frankly, it wasn't always valuable for individuals, but overall, I could see the value of that. I myself didn't really attach to any religion other than love. So for me, it's if the place came from love, then that worked for me. if the rituals also work for me. I was raised in Judaism, though, although I didn't even attach to that structure, although I like certain aspects of it. So looked at things differently, always saw the energies. I didn't know that people didn't see energies. Had dreams, prophetic dreams, informational dreams. I'd ask a question like, why do people need to think that their religion is the one and only true religion? And I would get a dream answering that. And that was one of many. But I was very mathematically capable. So I started in that direction. And when I went to college to become a programmer, it never really spoke to my heart. And that's what kind of led me back to teaching, because the analytical, while I enjoyed it intellectually, it didn't fulfill me in any way, shape, or form. So I initially became a special education teacher. And then one thing led to another, and I did not like the testing procedures that are used in the school systems. I still don't, for that matter. And I went to graduate school to become a statistician programmer in order to develop testing to be used in the school system that I was happier with. Unfortunately, there's no money in that, or there wasn't back in the 70s. And so I just kind of followed the energy, which took me all over the place. LA to study music. I sang in a band for a while, wrote songs, went to visit my parents, met my husband, got married quickly, like 7.5 weeks after we met, and then moved back east and followed the energy and learned a lot of energy techniques, which was, I think, largely for my own healing and personal growth. Got married, had kids, raised kids, got divorced, ended up taking care of both of my parents, very, very high stress for 5 years for a lot of different reasons, ended up with cancer, stage 3, ended up with treatment. And when I completed treatment, I'm like, okay, now what? And what I heard was, go get a master's degree in social work. So I did that. And actually, that's where a lot of the information about the brain and perception comes from, is what I learned from that degree. And as I was looking for work once I got my degree, again, one thing led to another, and spirit was pushing, or source was pushing me for in a lot of different ways, pushing me towards starting my own business. And I did that as a brick and mortar business for a while, teaching meditation, which is something I actually taught in the school system. Then I got a job for 2 years teaching being a school social work in the school system. And then COVID happened. And then I'm like, okay, what can I do now? Because it's not smart, since I'm supposedly highly immune vulnerable. And also I moved to the East Coast again from where I was teaching school, which was the Midwest, or teaching school social work. And one thing led to another, took a podcast boot camp with Shantae. We were sharing that information with Sandy, and Sandy came up with this wonderful idea that we should do, the three of us. So that's how we came to right now, with the Wavelengths on mywindsofchange.com. And I do have one of the subscription areas in there where I do the more group and one-on-one educational information, teaching classes, stuff like that, that you get when you work with me.
So, Sarah, what is your vision and mission when it comes to your work?
Well, Sandy, I'm glad you asked because it's also our vision and mission statements that we have on the website. It's something that is very dear to my heart and something that I literally dreamed when I dreamed the novel when I was pregnant with my daughter about 32, 33 years ago. And that is creating a community that is built upon love, respect, and integrity. And while a lot of companies feel that they're doing that, and I'm sure some of them actually are, I'm kind of seeing it in a way that we do that, which is recognizing that we're in different places in our lives and in our work and respecting where that is. We're in different places in terms of our responsibilities. So our business respects where that is. And we stay honest with ourselves and with each other and communicate effectively so that wherever we each are, the business itself respects that and supports where everybody is. And as you both know, it's not always the easiest thing to do, but that is what we're working on. And that's very much my vision since I had the dream with when I was pregnant with my daughter about the book series I'm writing. And as for the vision, it ties in with that. That's contributing to a new harmonious way of being, which completely supports our mission statement. And the harmonious way is about respecting and honoring and loving where each of us are and finding the balance of expressing ourselves individually or as a group, as the wavelengths, and sharing our knowledge and our experience and who we are, our wisdom in whatever way is most supportive of each other and those we work with.
Well, this is a very fascinating vision that you've woven together with everything that we've discussed so far. And I would like to know what makes you and your work specifically unique to you. You've mentioned religion and unconditional love and seeing energy as a hologram, and also a book series, which I would love to hear more about if it ties into your work. So if you would like to elaborate more on your uniqueness.
Oh, wow. It's a lot of information there. Well, in what makes me unique, I think the biggest piece of that is, again, since I was a very little girl, and I correlate this with having had 2 near-death experiences by the time I was 6, because that shaped how I perceive my world, which is ultimately going to shape my belief systems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It plays into some of what I'm told are unique talents that I have. Not unique in that there aren't other people who have them. I'm sure there are. So they're not unique in that way, but maybe unique in the combination of what those talents are and how I perceive the world. So it's unique to me based on my perceptions. One of the gifts that I brought in, apparently, based on feedback, is that I'm very good at explaining things. And I can generally explain them at the level of understanding of the person that I'm talking with. So that has made me an excellent teacher because I just somehow know whether it's mathematics or English or spirituality or quantum physics. I just somehow know how to simplify the information if that's what's needed, or talk to the level of understanding of the person that I'm communicating with. Now, that of course does not apply if they're more knowledgeable than me and smarter than me, because they're teaching me then, right?
Right. So if you're in a room of, let's say that you have a class of about 6 people and they all have different ways of perceiving, you would then be able to explain the material in a way that they could all understand. You would be able to speak to each of them individually so that they would perceive it in a unique way. And if I'm understanding correct.
That's actually fairly accurate. When I did have the brick and mortar down in North Carolina teaching meditation, my group classes, I did talk with each, I would present the concept. And because I perceived the energies, I could tell who understood the concept just from the energetic patterns and who didn't understand. And so I would work specifically in a respectful way so that I didn't single anybody out, because I don't want to make anyone feel embarrassed. But I would say whatever the concept was with a different combination of words, a different explanation. So reiterating it as far as people were perceiving it, the students in the class, but it was addressed to the energetics of the person that maybe didn't quite understand what the concept that I was presenting. So it was done in a way that nobody really knew that wasn't part of the class. But right. It facilitate everybody being able to understand the concept. And then in that particular case, it also, because my undergraduate degree is in special ed and child developmental psychology. So I was a teacher. And I'm very, very much an individualist. I think we're all unique in terms of how we learn and the process of learning. We have several modalities through which we learn, and we all utilize those modalities unique to us. So I'm very much a believer in individualizing information or presentation. And I always, if at all possible, I utilize visual, interactive, and auditory information simultaneously, because again, some people are stronger auditorily, some people are stronger kinesthetically, some are stronger visually. That way I hit everybody when I, not literally hit them, but I cover all the bases with that type of presentation. And that's because of my special ed background. And like with the meditation classes, I was able to tune in with the information that the student gave me as to what they were looking to accomplish through a practice of meditation. I would be able to determine which technique, because there's zillions of techniques and many that accomplish the same end results, depending on how you use it. But combining the technique with their particular lifestyle so that they would actually be more likely to create a daily meditation practice, which is, pretty helpful in creating a meditation practice and getting results. It doesn't do any good to have a meditation technique that you don't use or that you don't use very often. Change that you're working to create with meditation, and Sandy's very knowledgeable about meditation as well, and I think she would back this up. Change comes from having a daily practice or an almost daily practice. So it's that kind of individualization when I work with people. What else makes me unique? Well, I do energy work as well. I am a full mesa carrier of a Peruvian and cross-cultural shamanic tradition, which is basically energy work using certain rituals and structures, but I've also learned numerous other energy techniques with their own unique rituals and structures. And the spiritual teacher that I study with helped me realize that all energy, and I knew this, but I didn't make the connection. He helped me make the connection. All energy techniques are about unconditional love. That's really what it is. But the bells and whistles, the structures, the rituals, and all of that, that is specific to the person receiving the energy, dynamic, because it is dynamic energy that's occurring. And they need to be open to the shift. So if they believe in Native American rituals, then doing that more Native American shamanic stuff with the drum and the rattles and whatever is going to be more nurturing for them. So they'll be more open to the energy shifts. If they aren't into that, my favorite story as an example of this, before my dad died, he was found unconscious about 6 months before he died. And he'd been using a walker and needed a walker. And he was found unconscious because he fell and hit his head. And he wasn't discovered for 12 hours. So he was actually quite close to dead. It's amazing that he didn't die. So when I got to town where they live, I instituted a massage program for him. 1 week, he would have a massage therapist who worked on lengthening the muscles in his arms and legs and back so that they were more flexible. And the other one, which was on the following week, and then they alternated, was a myofascial release massage therapist who helped get everything untwisted in the body and all of that. So after about a month or four sessions with these two women, he was able to walk without a walker, and he was solid, and he didn't even need a cane. He didn't need to hold on to the walls. It was beautiful to watch, and you could feel him. I mean, you could just sense that he was feeling strong in himself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to where I lived at that time, which was Memphis, Tennessee. And for about a month or so, I forget why. And then I came back to visit for a month, or a long week, I think it was. It's a while ago, so I don't remember exact details. And he was back on a walker and very weak again. And I'm like, Dad, aren't you still using the massage therapists that I set you up with? And he goes, no, they didn't work. That stuff doesn't work. And I'm standing there going, did you forget that you were walking without a walker or a cane or holding on to walls? It just blew my mind. I mean, it's like, how could you forget that? But in his mind, it didn't work. So that's what he saw. And that's what we all do. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's true. I love this story. It really reflects that's what we all do. And I find it, I really resonate with that all energy techniques are really unconditional love, and it's the dynamics. And so it's beautiful. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I think it's a great story that shows how powerful our belief systems are. So part of what's unique about, another piece of what's unique about me is that on our website, I am including information. This part will always be free. Information about how our brains develop and what parts of our brain develop at what time, from conception through old age, presuming we all make it to old age, but it all applies, generally speaking. And then also I talk about how we perceive information, because it's the brain that processes what we perceive. And then I also talk about how all of that, how our brain works, how we perceive things, and our experiences in the world, and how our role models, which for many people are their parents, but not always, or there may be more than just their parents, how our role models, all of that fit together to help us create beliefs. And the beliefs make sense to us at the time. But what happens is a belief that I got at 3 years of age or 6 years of age, or 8 years of age, from a traumatic experience, was appropriate for that age, but it's not appropriate for me as an adult. But yet most beliefs are unconscious. There's been an estimate by scientists that anywhere from 85 to 95% of the beliefs we have are unconscious. Beautiful kids movie, Inside Out, addresses that. So if you like cartoons, that's a fun one. Not 100% accurate, but it's a fun one to explain the basics. But so I share all that. And then, of course, working with me, we go into the nitty gritty of one person, or I do provide some free classes that are recorded on the subscription website that elaborate on some of these things. So on the free part, I can include links if you want to research it yourself a little more, or if you want to work with me to kind of shift those belief systems to ones that actually support and serve you to where you want to go with your life, then you have that option as well. I'm sure there's more that's unique about me, but I can't think of it right now.
I think you could go on for days, having known you for 30 years or more. So, but anyway, so why don't you tell us a little bit about who your clients are and your ideal clients and who you like to work with, and a little bit more about how unique it is to work with you and your clients, the being kinesthetic or visual. Is there any particular one of those that you like to work with?
Well, in actuality, my ideal client is someone who is willing to do the work themselves, because the reality is, as you both know, we can show the path and talk about the path and talk about the bumps along the road or the low-hanging limbs or the holes or whatever. But ultimately, to create change, we all have to create that change for ourselves. Nobody can do it for us. So because I am writing the fictional novel series, which actually does kind of pertain to the work I do. It's just another way of presenting information that's fun because it's fiction. But it needs to be people who are willing to do their work. Because when someone works with me, like for instance, if they do an I.D.E.A. with me, an I.D.E.A. session, which is intuitive dynamic energy analysis. So they come to me with an issue in their life where there's a constriction of energy. Things aren't moving the way they want them to move or in the direction they want to move. They may be frustrated. They may be angry. There, a lot of possibilities there. So first, I give them a free consultation because I don't want to charge people for something that I cannot actually facilitate for change. So we have 15, 20 minute, maybe even 30-minute consultation, connecting with each other and me making sure that I can actually help. Because if I can't help, I'll reflect them, I'll refer them to one of you, or if it doesn't fit into your areas, then, maybe an actual therapist. I mean, it depends on the situation, of course. But I want to make sure with both types of one-on-one sessions that I do, one of which is the I.D.E.A., one of which is energy work. And actually, the third one is doing a 3-month coaching if people want specific one-on-one coaching. But I want to have that consultation first so that they can make sure it's really what they want to spend their money on, and I can make sure that I can actually help in any way, shape, or form. Because I want everyone to feel satisfied, but they do need to be willing to do their own work. Because if I do any one of those three, they're going to have homework. If they come to me with an I.D.E.A session, they're going to have homework, which may be doing a ritual, it may be doing some studying, it may be changing their diet, it may be doing meditation. It could, I mean, it depends on the individual. If I do an energy work session, they are going to have homework to help anchor in those energetic changes. And if I do if they want to do a 3-month coaching with me, they're going to have homework. It needs to be someone who, the people who work with me need to be willing to do their part, because it is a partnership between us, whatever that is. So, and as for the writing, that's completely separate, even though, I mean, it's based on Atlantis. It is considered a fantasy fiction. And basically, it's an allegorical tale of today. And the first potentially 9 books take place during the time of Atlantis. The first 3 are about being female and out of balance and how to find that balance. The second 3 are about being male and being out of balance and how to find that balance. And the balance I'm talking about is the yin yang balance, the intellect intuitive, or do it versus nurture it kind of thing.
Yes, so the internal yin yang balance within each one of us.
Right, the yin yang balance within each one of us. And the third 3 books are specifically what happens if we don't find that balance. And this is why the story of Atlantis is so cool, because they self-destructed. Right? So,
right.
And there's a lot of, well, there's a few interesting legends about that. And then there's another 7 books that are going to be current day, that are going to be more specific. Each of the first 6 books are going to be more specific about types of imbalances that we can have on that yin yang continuum and how to heal it within a partnership. So the partnership may be between a hetero or non-heterosexual relationship. It could be 2 people, it could be 3, it may not even be sexual. It could be an old person and a very young person. It could be 3 or 4 or 5, a group thing. I don't know, because I haven't gotten there yet, but I know it's going to show 6 different aspects of potential relationships and how to find the yin yang balance. And then the 7th book is about the overall healing that occurs when we do that. So we're not self-destructing at that 7th book. That's to show potentiality. So, I think that covers your question. Does that cover it, Sandy?
That covers a lot of it. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
And that covers all of my questions as well. And I'm very much looking forward to reading your book series. And I think it's a really harmonious blend of how your uniqueness reflects itself in the world. And so even though you have touched on this a little bit, if you would like to share maybe a story or a quick demonstration, or just, walk me through it. If I'm a potential client, what would be like an outline of having a session with you, or just anything that you feel inspired to share along those lines?
All right, so we're going to pretend you're a potential client, because I don't know how to do a demonstration. I mean, I don't think it's fair to our listeners when I've known Sandy for decades. And I have known you for decades, but we have talked a lot. And I know what I'd like to share. I went to Shantae I don't know where Shantard came from. I went to Shantae for a Reiki session. Shantae, let me just promo Shantae a bit. Sandy's also brilliant when it comes to energy work. Shantae with the Reiki, her vibrational frequency is so. Now I see things in terms of frequencies. And so it's speed, like on a piano, the strings of a piano, the notes at the low end, the bass clef, that part of the piano, if you pluck one of those strings, it's going to vibrate slowly compared to plucking a string in the higher register. It's going to vibrate faster because it's a higher note. Maybe the same note, like low C and high C, but it's a different in vibrational frequency. One is not better than the other. One is not worse than the other. They're just different. So Shantae has this very high vibrational, and so does Sandy, has this, they both have this very high vibrational frequency when they do energy work, which is really cool because from my perspective, what I've experienced personally is when doing energy work, you want to work with someone whose vibrational frequency is equal to or higher than your own so that you can kind of stretch up and expand to where they are. So Shantae has this high vibrational frequency with the Reiki. It just was very clear to me I needed to go to her for what, I forget what this session was about. I know it worked, which is why I forgot it, because I don't need it to clear it anymore. It's gone. And during this session, it was so cool. Now, Shantae does light language.
I do.
And I do that sometimes when I do energy work. But the two of us were talking with each other in this other language. I didn't know what I was saying. Shantae didn't know what I was saying. I didn't know what Shantae was saying. He didn't know what she was saying, but it was just this language that spontaneously came out. And it really felt like we were conversing with each other. And
it did.
Yeah.
Conversing with each other, and we understood. And there was a lot of the clearing work actually took place through the frequencies in our voices as we were speaking the light language. So the sound of the piano makes perfect sense to me because I also hear and feel frequency as well. So it was really
yes, it was definitely very cool. But the funniest part of that is, again, we're talking in this unknown language to us. I mean, Shantae is more of a linguist than I am. I studied Latin and I know a little bit of few Spanish words, a few English, what's the other, French words, but really just enough to be poorly communicating with it. But whatever this language was that we were conversing with each other, at one point, Shantae is talking in this language and I'm hearing it in English. And I'm like, wait, did you just say, is this? And she's like, oh, well, that's the picture I had in my mind. So it's to me, it's just fascinating because my analytical mind cannot figure it out. So it wants to watch and try and figure it out. But yeah, so that's one story. But going back to, let's say you wanted to do either the I.D.E.A. or an energy work session or coaching with me, 3-month coaching package. So the first thing we do, Shantae, is we would meet with that free consultation. So you would contact me and say, I'm interested in, so pick one of those, I.D.E.A., energy work, or...
so I'm interested in an I.D.E.A. session with you.
I.D.E.A. session. So we would communicate back and forth through email to figure out the best time for both of us to meet in an online meeting like this. And during that meeting, we would discuss what it is you wanted to create change in your life. And at that time, I would be literally, I have a whole crew in the energy fields that I work with of light beings and guides. I think there's an angel or two. Well, I know the archangels come in because we talk, but they talk with a lot of people. I'm not special that way, just FYI. They're very prolific interactive entities. But so I'd be communicating energetically with my crew, with any angels or archangels that wanted to come in, your guardian angel, your guides, anybody who wanted to be part of this conversation. And we do a prayer, an invocation of protection and being focused on that which is for the highest good or God's will. I do believe in that which is bigger than us. I use God as or source as a description of that which is bigger than us. And during that conversation, they'll go, yeah, the I.D.E.A. will work. Use this, and this, and or they'll go, no, I.D.E.A. won't work, but energy will work. Doing an energy technique because this is maybe a compression of energy or a constriction of energy. So they'll be giving me information. And while I won't necessarily share all of the details, because if I did that, it might be multiple hours long conversation, but I will annotate the information and discuss the suggestions with you. And then you decide what you want to do, where you want to put your energy. And you may decide you don't want to work with me under those parameters that all the guides came. It may not feel right to you. I may decide I'm not the best person for you. And if either one of those is the case, then we'll look at other options, other possibilities, because my goal is to make a positive difference.
Yes.
And so I would want to, even if it's not me, I would want to support you again within that 15, 20, 30-minute time frame, because I also get to value my own time here.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm good with giving it away, I don't want to give it all away, right?
Right.
So we would make that decision jointly. Now, if you did want to have a session with me, whichever I.D.E.A. or energy work, then we would at that point, we would agree on a time to do that. And there's prep work that I need to do to look at all the energetic aspects of that situation. And then I'll do that like right before we meet. It could take an hour to 2 hours prior to our meeting. And then I'll meet with you for an hour and a half, usually, maybe 2 hours. Sometimes it's as long as 2 hours. And do give you do an actual energetic reading. Okay, and share that information with you of what I see. And during that time also, I may come up with homework. I probably will come up with homework.
Probably.
And I'll also be making notes because I'm actually the meeting will be recorded because it'll be a Zoom meeting. So I'll record it and I don't know, because I'm still learning how to do all this, but I think I'll have a place where I can save it, like on YouTube, that's private, and only I and you, if it's your reading, would have the link. So that way you could go back and listen to it. Then a week later, after we finish the session, I also write down, because again, I like hitting all the modalities, right?
Right.
I will write down in an email, or maybe if it's a lot of information, a document that I send in an email, what happened during basically the homework and any highlights that I feel you need to be reminded about during that session. And I'll email that to you within 24 hours. But a week later, we will have a 30-minute follow-up to see how you're doing in terms of integrating and implementing and doing your homework. And then a month after that, we'll have another 30-minute follow-up. So your involvement would be the 1.5 to 2 hours of the actual session, and then 2 30-minute follow-ups. Well, they could be as long as 60 minutes, but I try to keep them to 30. To make sure if you have any questions, and of course you can always email me if you have questions, but to support you in creating that shift and making it permanent.
Well, it sounds like this sounds very thorough, and I do feel that if I were to experience this I.D.E.A session, that I would make permanent shifts after just one session. It doesn't sound like this is something where I would need to do a session every few months. It seems like it's, I guess, and I suppose I could choose to follow up or continue with coaching or.
Well, it really, I don't want to give the impression that it's a one-shot deal. That's a little bit of a simplification. And
right.
while my experience is that all of what we are energetically is rather simple, very, very, very simple. I also got during that very expansive experience where I expanded and became the universe. Literally what I said was, oh my God, this is so simple. This is so simple, but we make it so complex.
Yes, it's true. And that's been my experience as well, that we make it much more complex than it is.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, because of that, it depends on the person as to, well, we have many constrictions of energy, meaning the energy doesn't flow freely, whether it's intellectual, emotional, physical, etheric, anything that is below the soul radiance of expression. Below meaning in frequency, not hierarchically. We create constrictions with our belief systems, et cetera, et cetera. So it depends on the person and where they are in their development, because a lot of those constrictions are to help us expand into greater ability to express our authenticity on the soul level here in the physical. At least that's how I interpret it. So I know for me, some things I've been able to let a whole chunk go, and other things I get several layers and there's more layers, but I need to integrate those first few layers first in terms of healing and balancing before I am them able to get the next set of layers. So it could be a process, but it's not necessarily a process. It's very individualized depending on the situation.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the explanation, and I will consider having a session with you at some point.
Well, thank you.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us real quick? And we've really, really enjoyed listening to your work, about your work and your books and all the wonderful things that you're doing and moving forward with. So thank you for sharing all that you do.
My pleasure. I do want to say, though, since I have this opportunity, everybody has unique gifts, and I cannot say enough how valuable. I mean, I think I have a lot to offer, but I know Sandy also has a lot to offer, and so does Shantae. So for those who are listening to this, please check out the website, www.mywindsofchange.com. Obviously, you're listening to the podcast, otherwise you wouldn't be seeing this. And that's, of course, on the same website. But check out what Sandy has to offer and what Shantae has to offer, as well as what I have to offer. See if any of it resonates with you. Study the information about the brain. That's really helpful. And as a school social worker, I personally think every parent, every teacher, and every therapist, whatever, regardless of whether they're social workers, counselors, or psychologists, should be very familiar. That's my should for the day. I think it would be wise to be very familiar with the information on the brain and how perception and all of that. And then it's free. So please check all that out because it helps. I mean, let's face it, we're all teaching each other. So understanding the stuff on the brain helps us understand that chronological age has nothing to do with anything except to the physical body, really. At my age, I get this, here it is, gray, silvery hair. It's just part of getting older in this physical body. But who we are inside, in terms of personality, that's a combination of many factors that have nothing to do with our age. It has to do with our life experiences and our interpretations of those and our belief system. So there is absolutely no reason to judge anyone, regardless. It doesn't mean you agree with their behaviors or their belief systems, but it means you don't judge them for that, because we're all products of how we were raised. I think the soul has a piece in there too, but basically we're all products of that. And so that would be my huge message, besides if you want some actual support from a person, I think all three of us are great people to get support from. But yeah, there's no reason to judge. That's what we're all about, respecting each other with love and integrity.
Respect and integrity. That is our vision and our mission. So thank you for expressing this so eloquently. And so we can contact you through the website, mywindsofchange.com, and
The Facebook page.
Facebook page, My Winds of Change, as well as the Facebook group, The Wavelengths. And you can find information about Sara and Sandy and myself through all of those avenues.
Well, we would like to thank you for being one of our everyday people who do extraordinary things and telling your story and sharing you with us. That's one of the wonderful things that we're doing on this podcast, and getting people to share their story and their journey. So thank you for being not only one of our founding members, but also one of our people that we've interviewed now. So thank you so much, Sara.
Thank you. And I just want to say I'm very honored to be part of this triune.
Yes.
I'm very honored to be doing this work in harmony with the two. How do we do it? With love, respect, and integrity in a harmonious way. Thank you.
And with that, and speaking for Jante at this moment, and now for Sara and myself, we would like to thank you and say good night.
We hope you have enjoyed our conversation with Sara. Sara can be reached at the website www.mywindsofchange.com, by email breakitdownbyssd@gmail.com, on Facebook at The Wavelengths, and YouTube, The Wavelengths. Please take a moment to visualize our planet Earth bathed in white light. Everything within, on, and surrounding the planet filled with this white light, and all energies in whatever form moving into and staying balanced for the highest good of all concerned.